Oh, I know I get really touchy about this whole Uvalde situation, right? So y'all excuse my background noise. It's too hot for the G babies to go outside today, so they're having all their fun inside today. So if you hear anything going on, that's what it is. They are wide open, ripping and running, and having a blast. So anyway, back to Uvalde, right? I haven't really covered anything about Uvalde in a minute because that whole situation, all the lies and all the CYA coming out of that, just really, I mean, to say it irks me, to say it irks me is really not even sufficient. If I said it pissed me off, that wouldn't be strong enough. That gets to a place in me that I don't even have a word for it because I feel like so many children and those two teachers died unnecessarily when those officers could have done something. So when I saw this headline, right? I saw this headline and I was like, man, don't play. Don't. Hey, hold on. I'm trying to actually take this out. There we go. And take this out. So when I saw this headline, I was like, it's just like one more reason, one more thing, one more grain of sand on the pile. Officers could have stopped Uvalde gunman 3 minutes after he entered the school. But we know that they waited over an hour. This situation went on for over an hour, close to an hour and a half. And you mean to tell me they could have stopped him 3 minutes into this situation? So if they had done their job, right, that means that maybe a couple of children would have died. Not that that would have made it better because no children should have died, but maybe three or four, maybe even five or six. But it wouldn't have been 19 children and two teachers dead had they just acted. They could have stopped him 3 minutes after he entered the school. So I'm going to play this video. I'm going to play this video.
Today, we're going to hear from three Republican election officials.
Well, that's definitely not what I'm trying to hear. I'm trying to play this video. Play this video. And the ugly part is it played just fine when I was watching it before I came on here. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna read the article. Police had enough officers on the scene of Uvalde school massacre to have stopped the
Today,
gunman
we're going to
3
hear from
minutes
three
after.
Republican election officials, including two who say they heard directly
No,
from.
we're not. We're not gonna hear from them. Or you. Police had enough officers on the scene of the Uvalde school massacre to have stopped the gunman 3 minutes. You ever got mad enough to slap a device? 3 minutes after he entered the building, and they never checked the classroom door to see if it was locked. They never checked a classroom door to see if it was locked. The head of the Texas State Police testified Tuesday, pronouncing the law enforcement response as abject failure. Police officers with rifles instead stood and waited in the school hallway for nearly an hour while the gunman carried out the May 24th attack at Robb Elementary that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. The 18-year-old gunman used an AR-15 style semi-automatic rifle. The classroom door, it turned out, could not be locked from the inside. Yet there was no indication officers tried to open it while the gunman was holed up. Colonel Steve McCraw, director of Texas Department of Public Safety, said in a blistering testimony at the state Senate hearing. Instead, he said police waited around for a key. So they were waiting around for a key to unlock a door that was not locked to begin with. And they simply turned the knob. The least they could have done was turn the knob. I have great reason to believe it was never secured, McCraw said of the door. How about trying the door and seeing if it's locked? Somebody got some common sense. Delays in the law enforcement response have become the focus of federal, state, and local investigations. McCraw lit into Pete Arredondo, the Uvalde School District police chief who was in charge, saying, the only thing stopping a hallway of dedicated officers from entering room 111 and 112 was the on-scene commander who decided to place the lives of officers before the lives of children. Obviously, not enough training was done in this situation, plain and simple, because terrible decisions were made by the on-site commander, McCraw said. He said investigators have been unable to re-interview Arredondo. See, we keep seeing these headlines that are saying that Uvalde police are not cooperating with the investigations. And so here you understand why. I understand why anyway. It might not be all of the officers that are cooperating, but definitely the most key officer, Arredondo, who was the one in charge that day and failed to save the lives of God only knows how many children and teachers. He's the one that won't cooperate because he knows that this ball falls squarely in his lap. The public safety chief presented a timeline that said 3 officers with 2 rifles entered the building less than 3 minutes after the gun. Several more officers entered minutes after that. The decision by police to hold back went against much of what law enforcement has learned in the 2 decades since the 1999 Columbine High School shooting in Colorado, in which 13 people were killed. McGraw said, "You don't wait for a SWAT team. You have 1 officer, that's enough," he said. He also said officers did not need to wait for shields to enter the classroom. The first shield arrived less than 20 minutes after the shooter entered. Obviously, the first shield was already there if there were officers in the building with rifles and the shield within 3 minutes of the gunman entering. So there was already a shield there. Less than 3 minutes after this gunman entered this school, you see, let me zoom in on this thumbnail since the video won't play. I just want to zoom in on that thumbnail. So here's the thumbnail, right? You can see 1, 2, 3 officers. And right here is a ballistic shield. This was at 11:52 a.m., less than 3 minutes after the gunman entered the school. You had 3 officers with rifles and a ballistic shield. Let's get back down here. Also, 8 minutes after the shooter entered, an officer reported that police had a hooligan crowbar that they could use to break down the classroom door. Let's find out what a hooligan crowbar is, because I've never heard that term, and I would like to understand what it is. Okay, here we go. Hooligan crowbar. Yeah, those look like they will do the job. You will definitely be getting into something with this hooligan crowbar. Like this tip here is kind of like a pick, and then this tip is kind of like an axe and a wedge at the same time. And then the regular like hammer claws on there. They could have got in that door. Yeah, they could have. If they had one of these, they could have. I've never even seen that before. I can guarantee you I could have figured out a way to get that door open with that. It'll get the job done. State police initially said the gunman entered the school through an interior door that had been propped open by a teacher. However, McCraw said the teacher had closed the door, but unbeknownst to her, it could be locked only from the outside. The gunman walked straight through. Whoever put that door Whoever put that door lock on there needs to be fired from ever working any job that involves thinking, why do you need that door locked only from the outside? Texas Senator Paul Betancourt said the entire premise of lockdown and shooter training is worthless if the doors can't be locked. He's not lying. You can't lock down something that can't be locked. The Betancourt challenged Arredondo to testify in public and said he should have removed himself from the job immediately. Yes, he should. He angrily pointed out that shots were heard while police waited in the hallway. There were at least 6 shots fired during this time, he said. Why is this person shooting? He's killing somebody. Yet the incident commander finds every reason to do nothing. Questions about the law enforcement response began days after the massacre. McCraw said 3 days after the shooting that Arredondo made the wrong decision when he chose not to storm the classroom for more than 70 minutes. Even as trapped fourth graders inside the classroom were desperately calling 911 for help, and anguished parents outside the school begged officers to go inside. Arredondo later said he didn't consider himself the person in charge and assumed someone else had taken control of the law enforcement response. He declined repeated requests for comment from the Associated Press. As for the amount of time that elapsed before officers entered the classroom, McCraw said, in an active shooter environment, that's intolerable. This set our profession back a decade. That's what it did, he said of the police response in Uvalde. Police haven't found anything that would be a red flag in the shooter's school disciplinary files, but learned through interviews that he engaged in animal cruelty. He walked around with a bag of dead cats, McCraw said. That's unreal. In the days and weeks after the shooting, authorities gave conflicting and incorrect accounts of what happened, sometimes withdrawing statements hours after making them. But McCraw assured lawmakers everything I've testified today is corroborated. McCraw said if he could just make one recommendation, it would be for more training. He also said a go bag should be put in every state patrol car in Texas, including a shield and door breaching tools. I want every trooper to know how to breach and have the tools to do it. That's an idea that should have been out there a long time ago. Thank God for somebody with some sense putting it on the table. Families of those who lost their lives during the shooting are demanding accountability from law enforcement after the Austin American Statesman published a photo of armed police in the school hallway. The images reviewed by the newspaper show a timestamp taken nearly 1 hour before the gunman was stopped. Several family members of victims made emotional pleas during a school board meeting on Monday to fire Arredondo. We watched that last night. We were failed by Pete Arredondo, said Brett Cross, the uncle and guardian of victim Rosario Garcia. He failed our kids, teachers, parents, and city, and by keeping him on your staff, you are continuing to fail us. My mom died protecting her students, but who was protecting my mom? Said Liliana Garcia, the daughter of Irma Garcia, one of the two teachers who died trying to protect their students. A senior sheriff's deputy told the New York Times that two Uvalde police officers also passed up a fleeting chance to shoot the gunman before he entered the school. The unidentified officers, one of whom was armed with an AR-15 style rifle, said they feared hitting children playing in the line of fire outside the school. Chief Deputy Ricardo Rios of nearby Uvalde County told the newspaper. Well, I just wanted to bring that to you. They could have entered that school. They could have stopped him 3 minutes after he entered that school. So if they waited 70 minutes, that was 67 entirely unnecessary, murder-filled minutes that could have been prevented. That's a lot of lives that could have been saved.